Monster Hunter 6 was leaked a while back with a massive Capcom data mine, with a release set for Q2 2023, but as with many games on that massive leak, many projects were pushed back, but I think it's relatively safe to say Monster Hunter 6 is set for a 2023 or 2024 release at the latest. So today I will be going over a few things I would love to see in the follow-up game to Monster Hunter World, whatever that name is going to be. Well, of course, for the sake of this video, we will be calling that Monster Hunter 6. And starting that list off, we have quite a big implementation and a return in a sense as well, and that is underwater combat. This was touched on in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, and players showed a mixed reception to this mechanic. Some found it immersive and a great addition to the Monster Hunter gameplay stack, while others however found the underwater mechanics underdeveloped and very tedious to work with, especially considering for some aspects of the game's progression it was mandatory. I personally was a fan of the system, and while it has many flaws, I think it was okay for how it was implemented for its very first time, as we had never seen such a gameplay mechanic in a Monster Hunter title before, so hopefully they are able to build on that system, or possibly even completely redo how they approach the underwater combat and how it plays out with the help from the feedback players gave during its initial run in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. And this also does open up the door for many other monsters to be introduced, with of course a few returning monsters as well, such as Ceadeus and Abyssal Agiacrus, to name a few. The next thing that I hope we see in Monster Hunter 6 is a mix-up of what monsters return. I think it's safe to say many of us are fed up with seeing Teostra and Kushala Daora return in subsequent Monster Hunter titles, with others like Dalamador, Gogmazios, and even the other Fatalis variants being left in the echoes of the past. It would be nice to see some of these monsters return in the new realistic style that the console titles like World are striving for. And of course, as with the other monsters that have returned, specifically the Elder Dragons, this gives them a chance to be reimagined, similar to how they did for Fatalis in World, which I think was generally very well received across the community. Next up, we have Seasons. For those like myself who haven't played Monster Hunter DOS, seasons were in the game, and aspects of the game would change based on what season it was. This would be a great way of helping to keep things fresh every so often, and also add a bit of extra immersion to the game, which I think has been getting a little lost in releases recently. And if they were able to make it so seasons actively affected locales and monster spawns and the behaviours in really diverse ways, I think it could really add to the game's depth. And this could even go as far as changing the strength of various monsters, like Kushala Daora for example would be a great example of this, where it would be cool if we could see it as much stronger in the winter times and much weaker in the other seasons. Of course they can work in some kind of drawback to Daora, like having increased damage in the winter but lower health, or something along the lines of that, just to keep the game fair but also fresh in a different sense every so often while you play. The next one, this is more sort of a wish from me without realistically thinking about the development time it would take, but a massive roster would of course always be extremely welcome. Of course every Monster Hunter game we get, this is pretty much something that everyone's always hoping for, but I do hope they do have a bunch of new monsters with only a few of the older monsters in the game. Of course Rathalos and Rathian, they are a given, as they've been in pretty much I think every single Monster Hunter game since the dawn of Monster Hunter. But with the Elder Dragons especially, I hope they do mix up which ones they bring back, at least for the base game. If they want to, Teostra, Kushala Daora, I think at least for the base game it would be great to see a nice mix up of monsters returning. Next up we have less counters. I think one of the things that have been making the newer games too easy, or easier at least, is the way they are developing the weapon movesets, or the way they're progressing them. Of course this is mandatory for the game to progress, as when they do develop the newer games they don't want to keep everything the exact same, but I think the way that hunters are developing in comparison to monsters in terms of their battle movesets, it is getting a tiny bit out of hand and is creating a much bigger gap in difficulty when comparing the difficulty from the older titles to the newer ones. So I hope they do kind of calm down with the way we can counter monsters. I feel like slaying a monster in the older games, just something about it felt much more satisfying than it does now. But of course this could be something with age, having played Monster Hunter for so long, but it might not be. But I definitely think it's something they should touch on, or at least look into a little bit, just to see if there's anything they can do to rebalance the game in a better way. Finally, we have the one that I think most people have been waiting for, and that is a new weapon type. It has been an extremely long time since we've seen the implementation of a new weapon. Generation 3 gave us the Switch Axe, and Generation 4 followed up with the Insect Glaive and Charge Blade, all of which were excellent implementations. I think it's finally time we see our next new weapon type that will hopefully be a unique take on something we haven't had yet, like a new type of bowgun possibly, or a new blunt weapon. Of course, any new weapon would be extremely appreciated, as I feel like Capcom generally hits quite well with their newer implementations in Monster Hunter titles, but let me know down below what kind of weapon type you guys would like to see. I look forward to reading all of your comments. But with that said guys, that does bring us to the end of this video. Let me know down below what you guys would like to see in Monster Hunter 6, and if you agree with anything on this list, and I look forward to seeing how the discussion continues down below. As always, a like would be extremely appreciated if you did enjoy the video. It does help out the channel a ton, and subscribe for a lot more Monster Hunter content. Don't forget to join our Discord, link is at the top of the description, and thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.